the War Hipster here, coming at you with another Contrast Plus painting tutorial of the Age of Darkness and another Horus Heresy Primarch. Yes, we have the big boy himself. We have Magnus the Red here today, and we are going to be painting him up in our signature style. I'm really excited to do this. He's a big one. He's the tallest of the Primarchs by far. Like, seriously, there's a lot of mass here. But it's going to be cool. There's going to be lots of different techniques on display here, and lots of cool color schemes. It's a really interesting one to paint. Now, we are going to be doing both sections, both the scenic base and normal Magnus as well, as it were, and of course this bit of rock which has just fallen out, because that's the loose bit of rock that covers up that seam. But we're not going to be painting it all as one single thing. No, we're going to be painting them as two kind of separate sub-assemblies. So we're going to start on Magnus as per usual, then we will do his base, and we'll put it all together and we'll marvel at our own artwork. So he's been primed in Grey Seer, and well, we're going to grab our paints, grab our brushes, and then we're going to get started. So here we are then, Magnus the Red. Oh boy. So what we're going to do is, as always with Primarchs, we're going to start quite weirdly, and it is going to be a slightly weird progression of painting Primarchs because they are so highly detailed and they are kind of the most dynamic and most flowing of the miniatures. And so actually sometimes you have to start in kind of slightly weird places rather than with the primary color, which in this case would be gold. However, what we're going to do is we're going to start with the purple. Now the purple only appears in a couple of places. We've got the inside of the cloak, and then on his bracers we've got this kind of flat panel here and here, just there, like that. And that's where we're going to be starting. So we're going to be taking some Shyish Purple for this. And what we want to do is we want to get this all over the inside of that cloak. Now, the place to start is by turning him right up like that and going right up in there and then pulling the Shyish Purple all the way down. So we're going to go all the way up here, and then we're just going to start painting this Shyish Purple all the way down. Just like this. So with that done, just whilst we're waiting for that to dry, what we're going to do is we're going to take a roughly 3 parts contrast medium to 1 part skeleton horde mix, and we're going to apply this over the top of his outside of his cloak and these paper trails down here. So what we're going to do is just going to come right in under here, and we're just going to start painting this all the way down for that soft cream. So with that done, whilst we're still waiting for that purple to dry and now waiting for that skeleton horde to dry, what we're going to do is we're going to work on the feathers. Now, To do this, I know it's early in the video to be doing some wet blending, but that's what we're doing. We're going to be using 3 colours. We're going to be using Iyanden Yellow, Aethermatic Blue, and Akhelian Green. And what we want to do is we want to firstly take some Iyanden Yellow, and we're going to pick a feather to start on. I'm going to start with this one just here. And we're just going to paint this Iyanden Yellow all over the feather, like that. Nice and simple. We're then going to wash the brush. And then going to grab some Aethermatic Blue, and about halfway down we're going to add the Aethermatic Blue, like that. Then we're going to wash the brush, and we're going to take some Akhelian Green, and on the bottom part we're going to add it in, just like that. Then we can just go back to some Iyanden Yellow, add that in, just like that, just to really smooth out that blend. And then we're going to replicate that across all of our feathers. So this will take a bit of time, but once it's done, it's done. And you can probably get away with doing like a couple at a time. So for example, we'll do these 3 all at the same time. So we'll get Iyanden Yellow all over like that. Wash the brush. Grab that Aethermatic Blue, add it across the bottom half, wash the brush, grab that Akhelian Green and add it to the bottoms. Of each one, like that. So with that done, we should have some awesome looking feathers. They're not finished just yet, so don't worry if they look a little bit flat. They are going to be highlighted later on, but what we are going to do is move on, and well, we're going to take some Blood Angels Red next. I'm going to use this to paint in all of the red trim around Magnus's cloak. So we've got all of this area down here. We've got this area that kind of comes down each side. Like this. We've got all of the stuff on the front trails. We've got the little thin areas. There's a whole lot of red detail, so I'd recommend having the product photography open in front of you so that you can keep an eye on it. And you just want to go quite steady here. So with that Blood Angels Red applied to all of that trim, like that, what we're going to do very quickly is take some Akhelian Green. I'm going to use this on the remaining trim, so these little devices down here. There's a little bit up there on the collar as well. So with that done, all of the base coats on the cloak, excluding the little metallic clips here on the paper trails, are now just on the cloak. We're nowhere near on the rest of him. But before we move on to doing the rest of him, we're not going to do all the highlights at this point. We just wanted to get all of that done because, you know, that's quite a big task. Is we're just going to take some Volupus Pink. I'm going to paint this over the inside of the cloak. And this is so that we just kind of change the tone. This is what we were going to do ages ago, but it took so long to dry. We ended up doing a bunch of other stuff. So with that done, it is now time to move on. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking some thinned down Retributor Armour and we're applying this all over his armour. I'm going to be picking out any gold details that there are on the model. There are a ton. And it's just really, again, it's one of those things where the best thing for you to do right now is just have a quick look at the box art. Box art, product photography on the Forge World website, and just start getting this Retributor Armour all over. So with all of that gold applied, there's a whole lot of it. We've still got a few little tiny bits of gold left to do, and these will be on the book, but we're going to be doing those later once we've actually done the book. So what we're going to do is we're going to continue to focus on the armour just for the moment. Now, as you all have noticed from looking at the product photography and all that kind of thing, there's lots of different kind of jewelly tones and sort of coloured metallics all the way around Magnus. And this is what we're going to be working on now before we do any shading. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab some Volupus Pink. I'm going to paint this all over this band going across his stomach. Just like this. There's also the scarab in the middle of his chest. And there's the sort of Iron Halo-esque type area around here that we're also going to paint him with the Volupus Pink. So with that done, we're then going to take some Talassar Blue. I'm going to use this on these sort of chevron type areas, these little squares down here at the bottom of his leg armor plates. Just like this. And we're also going to use this Talassar Blue on these kind of rune-like devices or panels. On his legs as well, like that. So with that done, we're now going to add some shading onto all of that gold. And the colour we're going to make is a roughly 5 parts contrast medium to 1 part Wyldwood mix. Now, it is going to be quite dark, and it is going to add quite a lot of brown in there, but don't worry, we are going to brighten it all the way back up. What we want to do is we want to start with the kind of darkest shading that we can. Like this, to provide the perfect base for our relayers on the gold. You of course want to avoid either the blue and the Volupus Pink that we've already added. So with that done, just before we move on with even more gold work, what we're going to do is we're going to take some thinned down Leadbelcher. I'm going to use this to paint in all of our silver details. Now, they are scattered in and around Magnus, so we've got the kind of servos and things around his belly, all the pipes and stuff like that. There, like that. We've also got the trim just here on his stomach. And we'll continue that along on the other side as well. But what we've also got is we've got this section just here. We've got the horns, and this is all of his horns. So we've got the two on his knees here and over here as well. But we've also got this one just here. We've got the chain around the book. And we've got some of the trim on Magnus's armour. So down here, for example, we've got these kind of sun rays. And then we've got the iron halo. As well. We've got the sun rays on the other leg as well. We've got the two main horns up here. And then on his shoulder pad, we've got the inside of the design, the kind of the eye, for lack of a better word. So with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some Flesh Tearers Red and we're going to apply this all over Magnus's hair. So with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take a roughly 2 parts contrast medium to 2 parts Apothecary White to 1 part Blood Angels Red, and we're going to use this all over the top of Magnus's skin. So with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some Wyldwood. I'm going to use this to paint in any of the leather on Magnus. So we've got the straps around his braces. We've got the area around the kind of runic symbols on his badges. We've got the cover of the book. And of course, the soft wrap of his weapon. So with that done, as you can see, I've actually gone ahead and done the red on the tabard. I'd completely forgotten to do it. So, it's the same deal as the cloak. But what we're going to do now is we're going to take some Talassar Blue, and over the top of these runes, just down here, we're just going to apply this Talassar Blue all over across the badges. And so with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some Black Templar. I'm going to use this on the soft joints in his armour. So just in there like that. We're going to use this over the top of our runic badges. Like that. We're going to use this over the top of this band of silver. Like so. We're going to use it over the silver mechanical details there around the tummy. I'm going to use this over the top of the kind of, well, any of the armor silver trim basically. But we're not going to use this over the top of the horns or the weapon. And so with that Black Templar applied, we're now going to take some Magos Purple. I'm going to use that to shade all of those horns. And so with that now done, what we're going to do is we're going to take some Gryph-Charger Grey. I'm going to use this to shade the chain. On our book. And we're also going to use this to shade the blade part of the weapon. Just there. Like so. We're also going to use this just before we cut off. I'm going to use this Gryph-Charger Grey to paint in the pages of the book. So with that all done, I've added the gold to the book, to those detailings, as you can see. And, well, Magnus is now at what I would call a war hipster battle ready. But of course we are not going to leave him there. No, we never will. We might do one day, but not on something like Magnus, no. What we are in fact going to do is going to take him to the next level. And the place we're going to start now is in the more conventional, on the gold armour. Now the colour we're going to be using first for this is Skullcrusher Brass. And what we're going to be doing here is basically going to be now relayering all of our wide open panels because we want this to be nice and bright. So we're just going to be going all over like this, just avoiding where those recesses are and where the shade has really settled. Now this will take a bit of time and you want to be nice and controlled here. And you also want to avoid doing this on the weapon because the weapon is going to be slightly different. So just focus on the armor for now. And then once that's done, we shall return. So that Skullcrusher Brass applied to all of our armor. What we're going to do now is we're going to highlight it. Now we're going to make a roughly 2 parts Stormhost Silver to 1 part Retributor Armour mix. And we're just going to very carefully now start picking out all of the edges across all of our gold armour. So with that done, using that same mix again, what we're going to do is we are going to highlight the gold parts of the blade. And as you can see, I've already done this kind of slightly smaller sections towards the ends. But what we're going to do here is we are going to pick out very carefully all of our edges. Just like this. So with that done, you should now have this beautifully bright Magnus the Red looking absolutely fantastic. However, there's just one more thing left to do, and that is to take some Drakenhof Nightshade and thin it down with like 2 or 3 parts water so it's nice and thin, really just like almost at a glaze consistency. And what we're going to do is we're just going to add a little element of this just here on the thigh. Like that. We're going to add some of this around the kind of the chest area on the left hand side. Just there like that. And then on the sword blade, what we're going to do is we're going to add this like that. We're also going to add it to the silver as well. Just add just a little bit more of a hint of blue in there. And we just want to add this Drakenhof Nightshade like this on the flat of the gold, just there. I'm going to do it on the back here as well, like that. So with that hint of Drakenhof Nightshade applied to those areas, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some Talassar Blue and we're going to very, very carefully apply this over the sort of gem-like sections just here on the shoulder pad. Like that. I'm also going to apply it just in here. Like that. And then same again on the back. So with that done, I completely forgot to mention that we were going to do the same thing on those gems on his kind of back horns and then block in the alternate ones with Volupus Pink. That is what we have done. I apologize. But you've seen me do that twice now. So you're now going to see me do something that we haven't done yet, and that is to take some Iron Hand Steel. And we're going to use this to highlight all of our black silver, such as the trim around his face mask. And we're also going to use this Iron Hand Steel to highlight any of our silver. So for example, the blade. Still sticking with the Iron Hand Steel just for the moment, what we're going to do is we are now going to do the rather complicated, I'm not going to lie to you, process of relayering all of the horns. Now, what we're going to do is we're just going to, the tips are the easy part, I'm not going to lie. Did that twice in one clip. So what we're going to do is we're just going to relayer the Iron Hand Steel like that. And then on the horns themselves, we're going to layer over the top of all of the details. Until basically we only just have these little hints of purple here and there in the deepest recesses, like this. So with that done, we're now going to take some thinned down Stormhost Silver. I'm going to use this to add some little highlights to our silver details. So for example, just here on the tips of the horns, there's really not very many of these to do. We've got the blade. We've got the little rivets. So with that done, all of our metallics are now finished. They're looking awesome, absolutely awesome. So what we're going to do now is move on, and we're going to move on to highlighting all of our cream details. So this is his cloaks and various fabrics, and the color we're going to be using for this is Screaming Skull. So with that done, it is now time to work on the skin. And well, the colour we're going to make is a roughly 1:1:1 mix of Fyreslayer Flesh, Blood Angel's Red and Contrast Medium. What we're going to do is we're going to take this mix and we're going to apply this over the top of the deepest parts of Magnus's skin. So for example, just around there on the arm, apply this around there, and we're going to avoid the palm of this hand, because that is going to be all psychic-y. But otherwise, I'm going to get this all over. I'm just going to avoid that muscle as well. And I'm going to avoid that muscle too. We'll do the kind of part of his hand. Bring it up the fingers as well, like so. And then on his face, I'm just going to colour it in. So with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some thins down Squig Orange. I'm going to use this to effectively do a highlight on his face. Like that sort of thing. Whereas on the arms, what we're going to do is on these muscles that we didn't shade with our second shade, what we're going to do is we're going to effectively layer over the top with the Squig Orange, like so. And then further down in the kind of shadowy areas, we're going to just highlight the veins, and we're going to highlight the muscles, just picking out the edges and the contours. Just like this sort of thing. And with that Squig Orange applied, we're then going to take some Jokaero Orange. I'm going to use this as our little highlight. On the sharpest corners of both his face and on his muscles. So for example, we use the Jokaero Orange to highlight and pick out those veins. And the muscles. So with that Squig Orange done, just before we finish off the red skin, mostly his face, what we're going to do is we're going to take some Emperor's Children. And we're going to apply this to the raised details in the hands. Just like this. With that Emperor's Children applied, we're then going to take some Fulgrim Pink, and starting on this finger here, we're basically going to do the same thing, only this time we're going to do it a lot narrower. Just like this. So with that done, we then take a tiny amount of Corax White. I'm going to add a highlight along there, like that. And then we're going to add a dot right in the middle of his hand. Just like that. And then next up, we want to take some white scar, and right in the middle of that bright white dot, we're going to add it like that. And finally, just to finish off this hand, what we're going to do is we're going to take some Emperor's Children, but we're going to thin it down with like 6 or 7 parts water to make it really, really, really thin. And we're going to take this and we're just going to glaze it over the top. Of the whole hand. Just like this. And so finally, just to finish this off, what we're going to do is we're going to take some Screaming Skull and we're going to apply this over the top of his pupil. I should say over the top of his eye, actually, because it's not just the pupil. Just like that. After consulting the product photography, there is actually one last highlight to do, and that's going to be some Fulgrim Pink. Just around the eye. Just like that. So with that now done, what we're going to do is move on to the hair. So the colour that we're going to use to highlight this now is Evil Sunz Scarlet. And we're just going to very carefully now pick out the strands of the hair So with that now done, what we're going to do is we're going to return to Jokaero Orange here. I'm going to use this to highlight as a little spot highlight along all of the red detailing on all the tabards. Just like this. We're just picking out corners and prominent edges, like that sort of thing. So with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to work on those Volupus Pink gems that we did way back, closer to the beginning. So what we're going to do first is we're going to take some Shyish Purple, and just along the top area, just around here, the top half I should say, of the gems, we're just going to draw a line basically with the Shyish Purple, just like that. And then similarly on the scarab, just going to add a little bit of Shyish Purple towards the top of each of those gems, like that. And of course we're going to do the same thing with the Shyish Purple on this side as well. So with that Shyish Purple applied, we're then going to take some Fulgrim Pink. I'm going to use this to add some little highlights to those pink gems. Along the bottom edges. just like this. And with that done, we're then going to take some Emperor's Children. I'm going to use this to highlight the Iron Halo section around his tummy. So with that now done, what we're going to do is we're going to take some Temple Guard Blue, and we're going to use this to highlight all of our Akhelian Green like sections. So for example, these devices at the bottom of his cape. Like so. We've also got these rune areas in here. We've got these little decorations at the back of his legs. And we're also going to use this to highlight the runes on his paturges. So with that now done, what we're going to do is we're going to take some Baharroth Blue. I'm going to use that to highlight the runes on these leg plates. Just like that. So with that done, just got a couple of things left to do, and one of those is including our feathers. Now what we've got is we've got a really bright stark highlight that runs all the way along them, and that highlight is going to be Baharroth Blue. What we want to do is we want to do this around the central spine and around the edge. Just like this sort of thing. And so with that done, we're just going to take some Wyldwood, a very small amount of Wyldwood here, and we're going to add tiny little text lines going along each of our paper trails. On his back, just like this. So with that done, Magnus the Red is now finished. But of course he's not, because there's the matter of his ridiculous base, for lack of a better word, to paint. So what we are going to do is we're going to, once again, let that rock come out. There we go. Got that rock there. We're just going to extricate Magnus and pop him just there. He's not going to live there, obviously, but we're going to be mostly focusing on this base. And we'll be painting Magnus's base at the same time, but anything unique that comes up on his base, I will obviously demonstrate, but for the most part, we're going to be focusing on this one, as pretty much everything we cover on here will be available on both these extra bits. So without further ado, we're going to grab our paints, going to grab our brushes, and we're going to get started. Here we are then, we have our base ready to go. So what we're going to be doing first is we're going to be using some Basilicanum Grey, and we're going to be using this to colour in the majority of the stonework. So for example, just here, we're just going to colour in the entirety of this kind of broken stair. And make sure we get the underside as well. Just like this. Now, when I say we're going to be doing the majority of our stonework, and that's important. So, what you'll notice when looking at the product photography is that there is a lot of wibbly wobbly energy flying around. It's fairly obvious with the giant whatever the hell this is. Smite? Something like that? Doombolt? Something of destruction? You notice there's a lot of that flying around. And we have a lot of kind of runic devices as well. For example, just there. So when it comes to those types of areas, what we want to do is we actually want to leave those rock facings grace here for now. So for example, just on this one here, I'm going to colour in the sides of it like this. And I'm going to do the underside as well. Can get a little bit tricky this. Like that, but we're going to leave that facing clean for the moment because we want that to kind of have a pinkish purplish glow. It'd be a little bit annoying to try and do that over the top of Basilicanum Grey. So that's what we're going to do. And you just want to go around like this across pretty much all of the rocks. As for this kind of soil area down here, we're also going to apply this Basilicanum Grey all over the top. Like this. And the things to really avoid are, as I said, those runic devices on the ruins, but also the warp fire. So with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some thinned down Dawnstone. I'm going to apply this to any of the kind of flatter sections and any of the kind of more sort of manufactured intact areas. So areas like the steps. So for example, just here, we're going to apply this Dawnstone just over the top of it. Just like that. It doesn't need to be a perfect thick coat. Doesn't matter if there's a little bit of this shining through. This Basilicanum Grey, I should say. Literally just looking to add a little bit of variation, a little bit of brightness in there. Just in little patches around the model. So with that Dawnstone applied, what we're then going to do is we're going to take some Pallid Witch Flesh and we're going to gently dry brush this over the whole of the base that we've painted so far. So all of the rock and all of the soil. And this is because it's going to look a little bit weird to begin with. It's going to look really bright, or like we've not quite coloured it in properly, but that's okay because we're going to be adding all of our mystical magic in just a moment. So with that dry brush applied, what we're now going to do is we're going to add the kind of reflected glow all the way around the model. Not the kind of really bright stuff, but the reflected stuff that you see kind of glimmering off of the stonework. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make two mixes. We're going to make a 2-to-1 mix of contrast medium and Magos Purple, and a 2-to-1 mix of contrast medium and Akhelian Green. And what we're going to do is we're just going to start with the Magos Purple here, and we're just going to add it all over quite sporadically. So for example, I'm just going to start right here. I'm just going to add a little bit of Magos Purple in here to the ground, just like this. Just grab a little bit more, start adding it along there, like that. And then I'm going to add some more around here. And I'm going to add some kind of along this section here. Kind of climbing up this rock. Like that. Then I'm just going to go straight to the Akhelian Green. I'm just going to add a little bit of that in at the same time. And pick some unique places for it. And I'm going to go back to the Magos Purple. Add that over the top. Use that to smooth out any slightly too dark Akhelian Green sections. Just like this. You just get to have a lot of fun with this bit now. Just picking little areas for magicking. Like this. So with that now done, what we're going to do is we're going to use some Magos Purple on its own. I'm going to use this to paint in any of the runic rocks. So with that done, what we're then going to do is we're going to take a roughly 2-to-1 mix of Shyish Purple and Black Templar. I'm going to thin it down with just a little bit of water. And what we're going to do is we're going to apply this over the top of all of our remaining rocks. And over the top of our rune rocks. Here's a cheeky update on where we're up to on the whole base. Ooh, Magnus is wobbling. He's looking pretty good so far. So what we're going to do is we're going to quickly add in the glow to all of those runes that we've just kind of done. So we're just going to pop Magnus out of his base just for the moment. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a roughly sort of 4 or 5 parts Lamia medium to 1 part Emperor's Children mix. So it's really, really runny. And we're going to take a very small brush and we're just going to place this basically inside each of those runes like this. And it doesn't matter if it overlaps a little bit. If anything, we want it to do that. Just want it to be nice and bright. Just like this. So with those runes all painted in, they're looking pretty cool. Nice and glowy. Same over here on Magnus. Oh boy. So what we're going to do now is we're going to paint in the last very obvious thing that we haven't done, which is the Warp Flame. Now the colour we're going to be using is a roughly 2-to-1 mix of Contrast Medium and Volupus Pink, and ultimately this is just a case of getting this all over our remaining flames. So with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some Fulgrim Pink. I'm going to add a little dry brush. So we're going to add this over any of the kind of sharp points where we've got some of our purple. So for example, just around here, like that. We're going to add this around the rocks. That's the spare bit of rock. Like so. And we're also going to dry brush this over the top of all the warp fire. So with that done, if you can believe it, Magnus is finished. Let's just forget about that for the moment. Here he is in all of his glory. He looks fantastic. The only thing left to do is to colour in that negative space around the foot of the base, and there's not very much. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to use a little bit of astrogranite debris. Just like this. I'm going to give that a little bit of a shade, some Basilicanum Grey, and then I'm going to paint the rim. And of course you can do this any colour that you want. And so with that base finally complete, the Crimson King is finished. And oh my goodness me, what a fantastic model. Being a commission painter, I do get the privilege of doing things that I wouldn't normally have the chance to buy, and this is no different. So Joe, I hope you're really happy with your Magnus. I'll be sending him off to you very soon, but for now we just can bask in his psychic glory. What a fantastic sculpt. It's absolutely breathtaking, and who knows, maybe we'll do a Leman Russ at some point soon. If you enjoyed this video, you love the channel, and you want to support me further like these legends and bosses on the screen before you, you can do so. Head to patreon.com/warhipster or head to ko-fi.com/warhipster. Alternatively, you can now become a YouTube channel member by heading to the channel page and clicking on the join button just here, exactly like these awesome folks have done. And if you just want to shoot me a little thanks just because you really love this video, you can click on the thanks button just below this video. Don't forget to share it, like it, comment on it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And to make sure you stay up to date, don't forget to click the bell icon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon in the next one. Happy wargaming.